Good morning, everyone. Today we are examining Jeremiah chapter 29, and we're looking at some lessons or some applications to be made from this particular chapter. As we noticed yesterday in our introduction to chapter 29, in our reading of chapter 29, this is a letter that Jeremiah wrote to those who were already in captivity. And so we already have had a couple of carryings away at this particular time. And now we are at the point where we are facing the third carrying away. And so Jeremiah sends this letter to those who are already captive in Babylon. And I want to pull out two or three things that are discussed in this letter and just make some application, but also make sure that we see the significance of them. The first is found in verses 5 and 6, when he tells those who have been carried away, "Build houses and dwell in them, plant gardens and eat their fruit, take wives and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons and give your daughters to husbands, so that they may bear sons and daughters, that you may be increased there and not diminished." Here, Jeremiah tells the people that have been taken into captivity to settle in, to recognize they're going to be there for a long time. Remember, the promise has been there that they would be in captivity for 70 years. And yet, many of the prophets at this time are saying, no, it's not going to be that long. It's going to be a year, maybe two. And one of the things that is doing is that is causing those that are in captivity to not really know which way to turn. And so when you're not going to be somewhere for a long time, what do? You generally don't settle in and make yourself at home, as we more often call it. Instead, you keep things as simple as you can. You don't try to really dig in any roots anywhere, as it were. Jeremiah here is telling these captives, you're going to be here for a while. Take the time and settle in, plant crops, eat their fruit, build houses, build a living, build a livelihood. Be ready to give away your sons and your daughters, and to be willing to go through and have your families there and build your life there, because it's going to be your life. Remember that this is very different from the captivity in Egypt. This is not a situation where they are being made slaves with forced labor and various other things. They are being carried away into these various areas to basically resettle them and to help to keep there from being problems amongst the populations because of there being too great of a majority of one particular group of people. And so they're being brought to reintegrate into a new society. You're going to see that in Esther and in various other places as well. And so Jeremiah is telling them, settle in. You're going to be here for quite a while. The second thing that I want us to notice is in verses 21 and 22. Where there he talks about the fact that he sends a message concerning Ahab, the son of Kaliah, and Zedekiah, the son of Maaseiah. And you have this message that is being sent about the things that these two men who claim to be prophets are saying. One of the things that I want us to notice is that Ahab and Zedekiah, this is not the same as the king Zedekiah, this is a different Zedekiah, but that Ahab and Zedekiah are not prophesying in Jerusalem. They are not speaking to the people in Jerusalem. They are speaking to the captives. They are speaking to those that are already in captivity. And they are telling them not to settle in, that God is going to overthrow Nebuchadnezzar, and that everything is going to be okay in a very short period of time. One of the things that I want us to get from this particular passage is that God knows, and Jeremiah is going to express to the people what it is that these two men are saying, even though he hasn't been there. And he has not heard them personally, nor has he seen them and the things that they're doing. But God knows. And God is going to pass these things on to those in captivity as though he were right there, seeing and hearing the things that are being said. And so God knows what it is that these false prophets are saying and what it is that they are doing. And then in verse number 27, the last thing I want to point out this morning is the message that Shemaiah sends out to those that are in Jerusalem and to those who are the priests in Jerusalem specifically. And one of the things that he says in verse number 27 is he says, "Now therefore, why have you not rebuked Jeremiah of Anathoth, who makes himself a prophet to you?" Shemaiah is going to send to them and say, "Why are you still listening to this guy? And why do you allow him to call himself a prophet?" Well, the reality is he calls himself a prophet because he is one. He calls himself a spokesman for God because God is speaking through him. But here's one of the interesting situations in which you need to place yourself as you're reading this. If you were to receive this letter, and you were to have to try to differentiate between who the real prophet was, whether it's Shemaiah on the one side or Jeremiah on the other side, how do you do it? Well, you do it by examining whether or not the things that they're saying are coming to pass, and whether or not the things that they're telling you match up with what the scriptures that you already have say, and what the laws that you already have say. When you do those things, there's only one that's going to come out correct. Now, they might both be wrong, but there's only the possibility of one of them being correct because they're both saying completely different things. The same thing holds true for us today. Sometimes it's hard to know when just from listening who is correct when two people, or specifically maybe two preachers, are saying something that are on opposite ends of the spectrum. And it's not the right answer to just shrug our shoulders and say, well, we got no way of knowing. What we have to do is we have to analyze the data. We have to look at what it is they're saying, see if it matches up with Scripture, see if it matches up with what took place. And if it doesn't, we discard it. And if it does, we hold to it. Here, the people in Jerusalem were sometimes in a difficult place. Now, Jeremiah had already proven himself over the course of the past 20 years. Over and over and over, the things that Jeremiah had said had come to pass. But that doesn't mean everybody is going to accept everything offhand. Obviously, most of the people didn't listen to Jeremiah in the early days of his prophesying. And so you have this question: will we listen to Shemaiah or will we listen to Jeremiah? Remember, at the end of the chapter, there is going to be the curse that is going to be delivered on Shemaiah because of what he has said and done. And those things are going to come to pass. Those are the thoughts that I had from Jeremiah chapter 29. I hope they've been beneficial to you. Tomorrow we will come back and we will begin examining Jeremiah chapter 30. But until then, I hope you have a good day.